Is there anything I need to do to bring them back on?
Here, can I see your phone so I go back on your get on the new one?
We are back on. Please log in. Yeah, there's nobody online right now.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and
In.
yes.
We are discussing religious worker petition. We had some technical issues, so we had to reboot the system. So we are waiting for people to be back on. And also, I don't have questions right here now.
It's on the old one. I'll send them back in.
Okay, can
I'll
you
check
please
them.
do that? Send back the questions so that I can read the question and
Yes.
start answering them.
1
I will
minute.
still hold on a few more minutes for people to log in.
I'm sending people the new link. Everyone that I texted.
So this link is different from the one we were using before.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will probably miss it then.
Okay. I will start sending in the other questions from the old one. Where was the old one?
Okay, sure.
Let me go back. No, this is the new one. Okay. That's fine. Okay.
I'm sending the link too.
How does having working permit? Okay. Okay.
I think we have to proceed. I don't know what happened, but we have to proceed.
Yeah, go ahead.
The painful thing is that I saw some questions before that I've not been able to answer before
I'm
we
looking
reboot.
them up. I can find it. There it is.
Okay, we apologize again for the technical issues. I mean, machines will always be machines, so we don't have control over it. A lot of people were not able to hear us, so we had to reboot the system. So I promise you, I will stay beyond 1 p.m. today to be able to answer all the questions. So every single question that is received will be answered today. So there's no cause for alarm. So it's only my own time that will be affected. But we will ensure that all questions are answered. While waiting for questions, let me recap from where we were before the technical difficulty came in. We are discussing religious worker, non-minister. Can you please post the topic permanently? I can't see it online.
Permanently.
I mean, I need to see the topic. So we are discussing religious worker, non-minister religious position. That is the topic we are discussing today, especially as it affects the news of the expiration of the non-minister green card category. So that is what we are discussing. So I'm going to recap while we are waiting for others to join. I'm going to recap. What we are saying is that there are two categories of religious workers. There is a category of those who are ministers, ordained ministers, and there is a category of those who are non-ministers. Now, the difference, I think the question I was answering before the technical difficulty is the difference between the ministers and the non-minister category. For the ministers, the job duties must be exclusively religious duties, maybe preaching, maybe teaching, maybe counseling. It must be purely religious duties. And of course, the minister must also be an ordained minister. So, but for non-religious, non-ministerial religious workers, those are professionals. Those are people who are performing professions that can also be performed for a secular organization. For example, somebody who plays instrument. Secular organizations too can hire somebody who plays instrument. Somebody who teaches children at a Sunday school. Secular organization can hire teachers. Somebody who is a church administrator. Secular organizations can hire administrator. So the major difference, the test between what is ministerial and what is not ministerial, is the question to determine the difference is if this person steps out of the religious organization, can the person be hired by a secular organization? If the answer is yes, that person is a non-ministerial, that person is in a non-ministerial position. If the answer is no, then that person is in a ministerial position. For example, if somebody is an ordained minister and is hired by a religious organization as a pastor or an assistant pastor or a youth pastor, such a person cannot get a job with a secular organization as a pastor. Such a person cannot get a job with a secular organization as a youth pastor. Such a person cannot get a job with a secular organization as an assistant pastor. So that is the test. But if your job duties is such that you can get a job with a secular organization, then you are not eligible. You are categorized as a non-ministerial position. Well, I sympathize with those who are not able to join us again, but at least for those who are here, we will have to continue. So I can't keep waiting for those who are unable to join. Again, we apologize. Please, you can try to rejoin our YouTube channel. If you go back to our channel, I'm sure you will get the new link. Okay, for the questions that I already have, the next question: what does this mean for my work permit? Well, unfortunately, this question is not clear enough. So when you say, what does it mean for my work permit? Does this person already have a pending application for green card, at least adjustment of status? If you are referring to a work permit that is valid, that you obtain as a result of your pending application for green card, to look at the I-360. In the I-360, which is the petition for a special immigrant religious worker, there is a question: are you applying as a minister or are you applying as a non-minister? So it depends on the answer to that question at the time the I-360 is filed. So that is not something that I can answer off of my head, because if this is for one of our clients, I will need to look at your I-360. But if you also have access to your Form I-360, go back and look at it. Can you help me determine what page that question is on the I-360? So go back and look at it, and you will see whether you apply as a minister or as a non-minister. So for the purpose of those who are just joining us, or those who didn't hear me before we reboot the system, let me say this. Everything we are discussing today does not affect a minister. If your petition was filed as a pastor, assistant pastor, as a deacon, as a deaconess, as a youth pastor, if your petition was filed as a minister and you are ordained, what we are discussing today does not affect you. For ministers, it's a permanent eligibility. For non-ministers, okay, for non-ministers, there are so many issues with it. As I explained at the beginning, for non-ministers, this law was enacted in 1990. The law was first enacted in 1990 when the Congress realized that religious organizations, they need non-ministers to support the work of evangelism. They need non-ministers to help with religious organization. They know that without non-ministers, a lot of religious organizations may not survive. They need people who will play instruments. They need people who will teach their kids at Sunday school. They need people who will act as a church administrator. They need support staff. So that was when this law was created. Unfortunately, when the law was created, it was created with a deadline. It was created with an expiration. It was meant to be a temporary solution. It was not meant to be permanent. So they created it with an expiration. Okay, we will have this law for 5 years. So it was created with an expiration. So when the law expired, the Congress decided to extend it. And since 1990, they have been extending it. So because they have been extending it, 1990 to now, that's probably about 34 years. So because they have been extending it in the last 34 years, everybody, including me, took it for granted that it's going to be extended. That is the normal thing. They've been extending it. So everybody just took it for granted that it will be extended. So the last time it expired was last year. Unfortunately, since last year, if you look at the Congress, in fact, since 2022, when the Republican won the House of Representatives, the Congress have not been able to do anything significant, anything meaningful. So they have been doing a lot of short-term resolutions, short-term this, short-term that. So when they were trying to appropriate the government last year, they added this non-religious worker law into it, and they extended it until the end of the period the government was also extended to run. So again, this expired again last February. So last February again, in order to prevent government shutdown, they came up again with a short solution. Again, the government is extended until March 21st of this year. So again, this non-religious worker law was added to that appropriation bill. That bill was signed into law by the president on March 1st of this year. That was about 13 days ago. But of course, we didn't know about it until we received the visa bulletin. Visa bulletin is one that is released every month by the Department of State. That is what determines when an applicant can apply for green card and when they cannot. In this visa bulletin, again, because for non-ministers, they have only 5,000 allocation per year. So even if the law is extended, immigration cannot approve more than 5,000 green card for non-ministers. That is the maximum that can be allowed. So for non-ministers are facing two battles. The first battle, in fact, they are facing three battles. The first battle is the fact that the law that created the non-ministerial position is a law that comes with expiration date. And the current expiration date is March 21st of 2024. That is the current expiration date. The second battle is that it has a numerical limit of 5,000 green card that can be approved per year. That is the maximum. That is the second challenge. The third challenge is that it cannot be filed at any time because it can only be filed when visa is current. All these all these are challenges that faces religious workers, especially in the non-ministerial position. So let me go back to the questions. That trigger my explanation is the question that asks if the media pastor is considered a minister or a non-minister. Again, it depends on what the I-360, the petition for special immigrant religious worker, it depends on what the I-360 says. If the I-360 says that this is a ministerial position, then this person will be considered a minister. So the non-ministerial expiration will not affect it. But if the petition or if the petition says that it's a non-ministerial position, then this will be affected. And let me also add, it is not enough to just state in the application that this is a ministerial position. If it is actually a ministerial position, the job duty must match ministerial position. In addition, the beneficiary must be ordained. So in order to be a minister, in order to qualify as a ministerial position, the beneficiary must be ordained and the job duties must match ministerial position. The next question: what can be done from now? No. What can be done for... No, I'm trying to understand this question. What can be done now? Okay. What can be done now for R1 non-ministerial visa holders? First 2 years R1. Should they change route to other visas? Like I said, this does not affect R1. This does not affect R1. Anybody who is in R1, the R1 is regulated by a different law. It is not the same law because R1 is a non-immigrant visa. R1 is regulated by a different law. The law that regulates R1 allows somebody to be on R1 for a maximum period of 5 years. So if you are still on R1 for 2 years, this does not affect you. However, the area where you will be affected is that you may not be able to submit I-360 if it is a non-ministerial position, except the law is extended. So if you are still 2 years on R1, you still have a chance because, like I said, in one of my previous answers, if the pastors or religious organization, if they put pressure on Congress, I'm sure that Congress will extend this law. So if you are still only 2 years on R1, I believe you still have time because R1 is not affected. We are only talking about 360 and green card here. The next question. With this update, can someone who already has employment authorization approved work outside religious organization? That is a very, very tricky question because religious organization, the religious visas, whether R1 or 360, was a visa that was enacted to authorize a beneficiary to work solely. Take my word, solely, S-O-L-E-L-Y, solely. And you can go and check the meaning of solely in the dictionary. It means exclusively, solely. You cannot work for any other organization. You are authorized to work exclusively for the religious organization, solely. So that it doesn't permit somebody to work in a non-religious capacity. So it is solely. And from experience, I can share some of my experience with you. I've seen somebody who was doing the religious work, but was also doing business on the side. When immigration found out, it became an issue. Everything that was previously approved was revoked. So that tells you the extent of solely. I've also seen someone who is a, what do you call these people that play music? Who was a kind of instrumentalist for a religious organization. And this person posted on his Facebook account that, oh, I'm a freelance. If you have a naming ceremony, wedding or something, invite me. I'll be happy to play at your event. Of course, immigration use that to revoke everything that has been approved. So the law is that if you are a religious employer, they expect you to work solely in a religious capacity, at least until you get your green card. If you get your green card, you may be able to wiggle your way around, but until then, you can only work solely for the religious organization. If you are going to work outside the religious organization, you may be able to work for another religious organization, but it cannot be a non-religious organization. The next question, how about, I don't understand this.
That's the way the question was.
How about what? How about working permit?
That's the way the question, the question.
Well, I don't understand the question. I mean, how about working permit? So if you already have a working permit, if you have a pending I-485 adjustment application and you already have working permit, you can continue to use it. If you don't have working permit but you have I-485 pending, you can still apply for work permit and get one. So I believe that is what this question is asking about.
They approved their one. Well, they're not asking that.
The next question. Also, having I-485, what are the alternative routes to go? Well, I can't think of any alternative route to go, but like I said, if you already have the I-485 pending and you have employment authorization, you may be able to continue using your employment authorization. And if you have your I-485 that has been pending for more than 180 days, you may be able to change employer. But even if you change employer, you can still work only in a religious employment. For as long as you don't have your green card yet, you cannot work for a non-religious employer. That is why I emphasize the use of the word solely. So do you have more questions to transfer from the previous one? Keep the questions coming. I saw a lot of questions that I didn't answer previously.
Because of the bad connection.
I tried logging in.
Well, please, if you sent a question before, you can resend your question using this new link, because unfortunately, I don't have access to all the previous questions that I didn't answer before the technical difficulty. So if you have questions that I have not answered, please resend your questions. Resend your question. Like I said, I'm not going to stop at 1 o'clock today. I will ensure that I answer every single question relating to this. While waiting for questions, let me continue to explain the religious visa, especially the religious green card requirement. For anybody to get green card through religious employment, there are two categories and there are two ways to it. The first way is to apply for a special immigrant religious worker from I-360, either one as a minister or two as a non-minister. For ministers, your job duties must be such that if you leave the religious organization, you cannot work for a secular organization in the same position. For example, if you are hired as a pastor or as an assistant pastor or as a youth pastor, if you leave the religious employment, can you be hired by a secular organization as a pastor? Probably not. Can you be hired by a secular organization as an assistant pastor? Probably not. Can you be hired by a secular organization as a youth pastor? Probably not. But if you are able to be hired by a secular organization, then it means that your position is not a ministerial position. For example, maybe you play instrument. Yes, non-religious workers, non-religious organization can hire people who play instruments. Generally, secular musicians do hire people who play instruments. If you are a secular organizations do hire teachers. So all these positions, if you are a church administrator, yes, secular organizations do hire administrators. So if the position that you are hired for in a religious organization, if that position is such a position that you can be hired by a non-religious organization, then your position is a non-ministerial position. So that is the test. That is the difference. So if you are in a non-ministerial position, the law that created non-ministerial position, that law came with an expiration. The law was created with an expiry date. So every time it expires or is about to expire, the Congress has been extending it. The law was originally enacted in 1990. That was 34 years ago. And the Congress has extended it multiple times. It has gotten to a stage that we took it for granted that it will be extended automatically. But unfortunately, this time around, the extension that the president signed into law, I see that question coming in, I'm just explaining. So 21st, is that next week? That should be next week. Yeah. So currently, the law is going to expire on the 21st of next week, of this month. In addition, even if the law is not expired, even if the law is extended, non-religious, non-minister position still face another hurdle. And that hurdle is that when that law was created, it came with a limited number of green cards that can be approved for non-ministers. And it is the maximum that immigration can approve per year is only 5,000 worldwide. So it doesn't matter whether you apply from the US or you apply from outside the US, immigration cannot approve more than 5,000 green cards in that category. So that is why that is one of the major differences between a ministerial position and a non-ministerial position. And you cannot solve the problem by simply switching your application to ministerial position. For you to qualify for a minister to file I-360 as a minister to avoid the implication of this expiring law. Okay, I have a few more questions. Please okay. I want to be sure I don't miss any of the questions. The last one, okay. What?
The one that was sent to us via text. The one after Raula's question.
Okay. What does USCIS expect us to do?
Not before that.
Okay, before that one?
Yeah, there's another one before that.
What if I just apply for green card so I can, is that the one?
Yes.
Okay. The question is, what if I just apply for green card so I can at least have my EAD? My I-360 has been approved. Well, if you just apply for green card, that means you have a pending I-485. If you receive your receipt notice, that's the question. It says, what if I just apply for green card so I can at least have my EAD?
Maybe you got confused when you were answering. Like if you already had an I-485 pending.
Maybe the question is confusing. What I have here is, what if I just apply for green card? So can I at least have my EAD? My I-360 has been approved. That's what I'm answering. If you have applied for green card, it means that you...
They want to apply for green card. What if they just submit the application for green card?
Visa is not current right now. But that's not the question. Yes. You are giving it a different interpretation. The question I have here, what if I just apply? Is different from what if I want to apply.
The person came in person.
Well, the question I'm reading the question here and I'm answering it. The question here says, I will answer both. The question here says, what if what if I just apply for green card so that I can at least have my EAD? My I-360 has been approved. So if you have a pending I-485, yes, you can get, and you have the receipt notice, you can get your EAD. But if you are planning to apply, if you have an approved I-360 and you are planning to apply, and you are in a non-ministerial position, you cannot even apply at this time because visa is not current for religious workers right now. So visa is not current. You cannot apply for green card until visa becomes current. And let me say, this April 2024 visa bulletin that came with this negative news, according to that visa bulletin, for religious workers, non-ministerial visa is currently unavailable. But for religious workers, ministerial position, they are processing cases received on November 1st, 2020. So if your I-360 was received by immigration on or before November 1st, 2020, and you have an approved I-360, yes, you can still go ahead and apply for green card. But if you are in a ministerial position, visa is not even available right now. That is one of the differences that I was trying to clarify, because when it comes to non-ministerial position, there are only 5,000 allocation. So the U in that visa bulletin, that U means that it is unavailable. That 5,000 has been used up. That is what the U means. The 5,000 allocation for non-ministerial position have been exhausted. That 5,000 allocation has been completely exhausted. So you cannot even apply for green card right now if you are in a non-ministerial position. But if you are in a ministerial position, what you need to look at is the date on your I-360, the date that your I-360 was filed. If your I-360 was filed on or before November 1st, 2020, and you are in a ministerial position, you can still apply for your green card right now. Now, the next question. Please, can spouse still file another I-485 with this R1 green card update? I don't understand this question. Many of these questions are not clear, and I don't want to be misleading people. So I want to be sure I understand the question correctly. So how is the issue of spouse filing I-485? How does that come in here? We are discussing religious worker. So is your spouse a religious worker? Does the spouse have an approved I-360, or is the spouse filing I-485 based on your own I-360 or based on your own approved I-360? So there's a lot that I don't understand in the question, and I don't want to assume, but I will answer it the way I understood the question. So the question is, please, can spouse still file another I-485 with this R1 green card update? Like I said, the question is very confusing. But if you have a pending I-485 as a religious worker, if you are going to add your spouse can still file I-485 before 21st March 2024. They cannot file I-485 after that date, except the law is extended. So if that is the question, if you have a pending I-485 based on approved I-360, if you want to add your spouse to the I-485, the I-485 must be filed before 21st of March 2024. That is next week. So it must be filed in order for your spouse to be locked in. If the I-485 is not filed before 21st of March, it can no longer be filed except the Congress extend this law. The next question. What does USCIS expect us to do? Well, this is not USCIS problem. USCIS is only complying with the law. So there is nothing USCIS expect people to do. The USCIS is only complying with the law. The people pressure on their congressman. This is an election year. I'm sure that if people in religious organizations will come together and put pressure on the Congress, they will extend this law. I am 100% certain of that, especially in an election year. So all you need to do is to put pressure. I mean, if you have a family member who is a U.S. citizen, ask them to call the Congress, congressman in their locality. Let them call their senator. Let the pastors call them. Let them put pressure. Come together and form a pressure group and ask the Congress to extend this law. That is the only solution. USCIS cannot do anything if the law is not extended. USCIS cannot violate the law. They are only implementing the law. So this is not a USCIS problem. The next question. Why does this apply to me when my I-360 has been approved and my green card application is pending? Why is this retroactive? Well, I discussed this earlier. Please, I want you to have an understanding. This is not retroactive. There is nothing retroactive here. The law that created these non-ministerial workers, this law, when the law was enacted, they put a date, they put an expiration date. It's like when you go to the grocery and you go and buy something in the grocery. Maybe you buy something and in the can they wrote expiration date. So you can't turn around and blame the manufacturer for putting expiration date. When the law was created, the law came with an expiration date. But the issue here is that the Congress has been extending this expiration date. And right now, the last extension, which they did about 10 days ago, only extended it until 21st of March, which is just next week. So this is not a problem of changing the law or anything. No, when that law was enacted, the law came with expiration date. So when people apply for religious workers position, when religious organizations file petition, when we as attorney file all these things, we knew that this thing has expiration. The only problem is that because they have always extended it, we took it for granted that they will continue to extend it. So that is the issue. The issue is not that anything is changing. No, nothing has changed. The law has always had expiration date. But again, this law was created since 1990, 34 years ago. So every time it's expired or is about to expire, the Congress have always extended it. So we became used to them extending it automatically. So we just took it for granted that, okay, no, don't worry, they will extend it. That is why it is not something that we emphasize when we talk to clients. That is why it is not something that we emphasize when we talk to religious organizations, because they have always extended it. And to be honest with you, I still have the belief that they will still extend it. We just need to put pressure on this Congress. I mean, we know that this is not only about religious workers. Nothing seems to be working in the United States Congress right now. There are so many laws passed either by the House of Representatives that the Senate will not even consider, or passed by the Senate that the House of Rep will not consider, because they are controlled by two different political parties. The House of Rep is controlled by the Republicans, while the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. So I believe that is the issue here. I believe this is just the religious workers are just victims of politicking. So that is my personal view. I mean, I don't have any authority for that. Is that the one I just answered? Yeah, that's the one I just answered. I said this is not retroactive. It has always been the law, yes. The next question. I filed an R1 petition as music minister. Will this affect me? Well, if you are talking about R1, this discussion is not about R1. It does not affect R1. So if you are the fact that you are a music minister does not automatically mean that it will affect you, because number one, in addition to being a music minister, are you an ordained pastor? Does your job duty, is it limited to that ministerial duty? Secondly, are you, if you go out of the religious organization, are you hireable in your position by a secular position? If the answer to this is no, then this does not affect you. But if the answer is yes, then it will definitely affect you. But if you are still on R1, this is not about R1. Somebody can still be on R1 for up to 5 years. So even if you are waiting for the law to be extended, it can still be extended before your R1 runs out. But again, if you do not qualify for a minister position, you will face another problem, another challenge of visa availability, because for non-ministers, the maximum that is allowed by law is 5,000 green card. And according to this April 2024 visa bulletin, that 5,000 has been completely used up. So forget about it, whether you have a pending application for green card, whether you have a pending I-360. If you are a non-minister, you cannot get green card, at least not until the next fiscal year. The immigration fiscal year for 2025 is going to start on October 1st of 2024. So between now and October 1st, 2024, anybody who is in a non-ministerial position with a pending application for green card cannot get green card between now and October 1st. The next question. For someone in this category, non-minister, that already has EAD, on what basis can the EAD be renewed if, God forbid, this category is not renewed? Very good question. EAD is not attached to your employment. EAD is attached to a pending application for permanent resident. So if you have a pending application, if the visa is used up, they are not going to deny your application. They are just going to suspend action, because like I said, if they can approve only 5,000 in a year and they have finished the entire 5,000, it means that you wait until the following year. So when you get to the following year, because the applications are processed in the order in which they are received, that is why we have priority date. So once they get to your turn, you will still get your green card, but it's going to be delayed. That's just the meaning. But because you can form yourself into association, I mean, maybe association of what kind of? I know that Catholic churches, they have different associations, and non-Pentecostal churches. I mean, you can form yourself as a formidable group. Maybe association of Pentecostal churches, association of non-denominational churches, maybe association of whatever. Form yourself into a formidable group. And I can tell you, because this is an election year, pressure works. This is the best time that pressure can work. So to answer your question, as a religious organization, call your congressman. I mean, every single area have a congressman or a congresswoman representing them. Every state have 2 senators representing them. So call your senator, call your representative. Let them know that these people are an integral part of the organization. And not extending this thing is not only to create problem for them, but it's going to create problem for the entire religious organization. So you can do a lot by putting pressure, especially in an election year. I guarantee you, everybody, including the president, will listen to you in an election year. Make sure that if any one of them is campaigning near you, make sure that you attend. If they have what do they call this meeting, meetings that politicians do? No, where they campaign with this short group of people. The name just disappeared from my head. Town hall, yeah. Make sure you attend town hall meetings. Attend town hall meetings. Put pressure. Ask them questions. This is an election year. Every congressman will listen to you. You can do a lot. You can influence a lot. Every one of them, even the president, will listen to you this time. If they come to do an election event near you, make sure you participate. That's all you need to do to influence things, to create change. You can do a lot. The next question. Hello, sir. My own religious worker green card was approved. My wife and children were doing consular processing based on my approved I-360 children's teacher, but they have not been approved. What will happen to their own applications? Can they still be approved after March 21st? No. After March 21st, they are going to hold on to the application and see what the Congress is going to do. But they cannot approve it after March 21st. At least that is the instruction on the visa bulletin that was released. They cannot approve it after March 24th. So, but again, it's not as if they are going to deny it. Have a clear understanding of what I'm explaining. It doesn't mean they are going to deny it, but they are going to hold on to see what the Congress is going to do. The next question. How about if position at the point of filing is minister in charge of outreach? Oh yes, if you are minister in charge of outreach and you are an ordained minister, yes, you can qualify for a ministerial position. The next question. With the April bulletin, my priority date became current. Does it mean my case will be attended to this period? I'm waiting for my green card using religious worker route. Oh yes, if your priority date is current, yes. But let me tell you this. If your priority date is current and you are in a non-minister category, I will advise you to quickly submit a request for expedited processing. If you have a lawyer, contact your lawyer to submit a request for expedited processing on your behalf. If your date is current and you are in a non-minister category, because like I said, there are two problems here for non-minister category. The first problem is problem of expiration, which is the one we have been discussing. The second problem is the problem of visa being current. So if visa is not current, there is nothing that immigration can do. But if you have checked the visa bulletin and your visa category is current, then it means that immigration may approve it. But if you are also in a non-minister category, immigration will not have the legal authority to approve it after 21st of March. So if you are in that category, quickly submit an expedited request to immigration on your case and use this potential expiration of March 21st as a reason for your request. The next question. With pending I-485 on this update, the EAD can be renewed on the basis of a pending I-485. The authority to renew EAD is derived from a pending I-485. It's not derived from I-360 and it's not derived from R1. The authority to renew EAD is derived from a pending I-485. So if you have I-485 pending, whether the law that created the non-ministerial position expires or not, you may still be able to renew your employment authorization based on the currently pending I-485. The next question. Oh, okay. When I was trying to remember this person type town hall meeting. Yes, that's what I was trying to remember. Thank you for pointing it out. But I eventually remembered. Yes, town hall meeting. Yes, that was what I was trying to remember. Thank you. The next question. If I already have a work permit, but the green card is pending, do I still have a chance to get it approved? Can I still renew my work permit to legally remain in the US? Yes, you can still renew the work permit, but if you are in the non-minister category, like I said, according to the released visa bulletin, non-minister category have already exhausted the 5,000 allocation for fiscal year 2024. They have already exhausted it. So even if this law is extended, you still will not get green card until fiscal year 2025. But the good thing about fiscal year 2025 is that it starts on October 1st. That is when another 5,000 allocation will be released, and it will be treated on a first come first serve basis. But of course, for as long as your I-485 is already pending, you can always renew your employment authorization. The next question: what of someone who is a worship leader who has filed green card for the past 2 years, fingerprint done already, we have our EAD? How does this law affect such a person? Nobody can hire me. Okay.
No, go to the next one.
Huh?
Continue on.
There's a second part.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In a secular organization as a worship leader. Okay. In order to answer this question, I will want the writer of this question to go and look at Form I-360. Form I-360. That is the immigrant petition for special religious worker. That is Form I-360. So when you look at Form I-360, look at page 10. Look at page 10 of the I-360. So if you already have a pending adjustment application, that suggests to me that your I-360 has already been approved. So look at a copy of your I-360 that was filed. Look at page 10 and look at the option that was selected for you. In that page 10, there are questions there. Is this a ministerial position? Is this a non-ministerial position? So when your I-360 was filed, what did you indicate? So it is one thing that you said that nobody can hire you, yes, which means that you qualify for a ministerial position. So the next question is, did you apply in a ministerial position? So what you indicated in the I-360 is what immigration is going to use. That is what they are going to rely on. Unfortunately, you are not going to have any opportunity to amend it or to adjust it. So you go back to that question and look at your answer, page 10 of Form I-360. So if your answer is the position is a ministerial position, then you have nothing to worry about. But if your answer is the position you apply for is a non-ministerial position, then this affects you. The next question: my position in church is children's teacher, and it's time for my employer to file I-360. Based on this new development, can the I-360 be filed with a minister position? I'm an ordained minister. This is still doable if you have not filed your I-360. But let me tell you this: it is not enough to show that you are ordained. Ordination is part of it, but at the same time, the job duty must be carefully drafted. So you will need an experienced immigration attorney to put it together so that your application can be considered as a minister application. But yes, it can be done. Any outstanding question from your end? Any outstanding question?
I'm checking already other phones and
Okay, that seems to be the last question that I've received.
Let me check.
Okay.
Okay, no, it's good. Okay.
No, let me hold on. You can just check. I want to make sure I don't miss any question. Okay, in the absence of Any additional question will be rounding up. Normally, we should have rounded up at 1 o'clock, but I decided to extend it because of the break in transmission that we had. If you are just joining us today, we are discussing the update on religious worker petition. And before I go, let me just summarize our discussion today. So our discussion today emphasized the difference, the different types of religious petitions that we have. There are two types of religious worker petition. One is for people who are ministers. For ministers, their position must be exclusively religious organization, religious duties, and they must be ordained as a minister. On the other hand, for non-ministerial position, these are support positions that religious organizations require in order to continue running. For example, worship leader, for example, instrumental administrator, positions that are not exclusively religious. So those are considered non-ministerial position. So for non-ministerial position, the law that created that law was first enacted in 1990. And when the law was enacted, it came with expiration. The Congress put an expiration date on it. But since that time, Congress have been extending it. They have been extending it to the extent that we took it for granted that it will be extended no matter what. However, the last extension, which they did just in February, and it was signed into law by the president on March 1st, that extension was only for 3 weeks. It was extended until March 21st of 2024. That is why we had to come up and explain all these things. Because unless the Congress extended it, it means that immigration will no longer be able to accept or process a green card for non-minister position if after 21st of March 2024. In addition, for non-ministerial position, because they have a limited number of green cards that can be approved annually, the maximum number that can be approved is only 5,000. And according to the visa bulletin that was released by the Department of State this Monday, this past weekend, that visa bulletin indicated that the 5,000 has been exhausted. They have finished the entire 5,000. So no new green card can be approved for non-ministers at least until the end of fiscal year 2024. And the fiscal year 2024 is going to end on September 30th of 2024. So new fiscal year 2025 will start on October 1st of 2025. So if this law is extended, non-ministers will continue to process their green card and they will be able to get green card even after 1st of October 2024. So in the absence of any new question. Oh, there's a new one. Oh, okay. Whether you are married to a U.S. citizen, whether you are a nurse, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a lawyer, accountant, everybody, that is the same form that everybody uses to apply for green card. So we are not talking about I-485. We are talking about I-360. Page 10 of Form I-360. That is what you need to look at to see what you selected, whether it was filed for you as a minister or whether it was filed as a non-minister. Can you please...
And he's also saying that the approval says the category.
It says minister.
It says minister. He said that he doesn't have a copy of the I-360.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the other part of the question. Okay. Let me see. Can the... Oh. I don't have a copy of my I-485 application document, so I don't remember what's on page 10, but my I-360 approval notice indicates religious worker, minister. Hope this suffices. Oh yes, if it is actually the I-360 that matters. So if the I-360 says minister, you are covered. Yes, it suffices. Any more questions? Okay, I believe we have tried for today. In the absence of any new question, we'll be hanging up at this time. Remember to join us again next week, Wednesday. This is a program that we do every Wednesday and it's free of charge. You have the opportunity to ask questions and we will attend to every question. It's free. There's no string attached. So all you need to do is to invite your friends, your family, your colleagues at work. That's the only thing you can do. You can also subscribe to our channel so that whenever we go live, you get a notification and you remember to join. So in the absence of any additional question, in the absence of any additional questions, so here we will be hanging up. Remember to follow us on social media. We do have reels where we answer questions on a daily basis. So even if we are not able to answer your question, if you want to show appreciation, it is not good that you enjoy the information and keep it to yourself. Spread the news. Let others benefit too. Even if you are a US citizen, you never know where the information will be useful. So let others benefit too. Tell others to also log in. If you miss our podcast, you can also go back to view it on our YouTube channel. So hope to see you next week. Have a lovely evening. God bless you.